morning and welcome to our UU Houlton Sunday Service online edition from Unitarian Parlor in Houlton, Maine. We thank you for joining us, for showing up, and for helping us hold the space, sacred space for community, support, and being here. At UU Houlton, we are attempting to create a culture of covenant and inclusion. You are welcome here, one and all. We'd light the chalice today for the love of community and friendship, even when apart, and to remind ourselves that light dispels darkness, that love calms our fears, that hope keeps us going. For our moment of centering silence, let us sit in open space with open mind and just be here. Breath, mind, and body. Opening words are from poet David Sleiter from the Fetzer Institute in Michigan. I awoke to the confusion of a new day, the scraps of dreams, memories of yesterday, and new cravings creeping into awareness. The sun spilling its light over all, but the shadows and a cacophony of sound from outside and in. What to make order of? What to let go, and who makes the choice. I think I will go down to the river and just watch it flow. It's been a long time since I have done something really important. So like the opening words say, we are going to watch the waters flow via a brief video meditation taken at South Brook Falls last April, about this time. The falls are located halfway between Harvey Siding and St. Croix Lake in Monticello, just upstream from me a ways. I think I will go down to the river and watch it flow. It's been a long time since I have done something really important. Prayer by Hazel Henderson during this month of Earth Day awareness. Hazel is an economist and author who lives in Florida. Each day I recommit myself to the almighty power of universal love and the evolutionary life force of which I am a small part. I will always be guided by this source of my eternal being and will walk in faith and hope for life on this earth, and always seek those who share this knowing as my companions in love and light. I balance my energy in joy and compassion in serving the highest purpose, our universal community. Amen. As is our custom, let us light candles this morning for our joys and concerns. This first candle is a candle of delight for maple sugar season. The sap is running. How sweet it is. This is a candle of appreciation. One of the members of our group pruned the cherry tree out on the front lawn of the church this week, so we appreciate the pruning job. Governor Spencer Cox issued executive order declaring state of emergency due to drought conditions in Utah earlier this month. So we light this candle praying for those conditions, and also middle part of the United States and the Southwest and California. We're looking at some low water amounts in this April season. That's a long wick. It's coming. And again, more shootings in the U.S. this week. We continue to light candles of sorrow and hope for change in our society. Less violence, more peaceful means. And we have our crisis candle. That we continue to light. For COVID, the pandemic around the world, and the new B.1.1.7 variant from Great Britain is now the dominant version of the virus in the United States. So we light the crisis candle for continued vigilance, for healing, for spread of more vaccinations across our country and the world. And to heal, we must remember we shine a light in the darkness for those that we have lost. And we're lighting a silent candle for any unspoken prayers this week that you may have and concerns. This candle contains those. And we'll take just a few moments of silence for you to reflect where you are and to add some names to your list for people who you are praying for this week. The joy or the sorrow of one is shared by all. May our hearts be as one on this day. Let us carry each thought or concern expressed in our heart, and may the light of our love and compassion transform suffering into non-suffering and ease the difficulties of life. We radiate love and the light that we are. Blessed are we all. Amen, and blessed be. Special music this morning is an instrumental by good friends Brad Hutchinson and Corey Hopkins. They've been here before. Since today's talk is titled The Diner Sermon, I have a cartoon I'd like to share by Bill Griffith, the creator of Zippy the Pinhead, a comic from an early 1970s that's still going strong. Bill Griffith was born in Brooklyn, New York, and grew up in Levittown on Long Island. Based on his lifelong interest in American roadside attractions, theme parks, art, philosophy, fast food joints, and classic diners, these are settings and content that find their way into Griffey's work. He has several cartoons from the A1 Diner in Gardner, Maine, and this cartoon is from his visit to the Little Miss Portland Diner in Portland. The cartoon strip is titled The Clock on the Wall. Zippy is seated at the counter on a stool talking to Eddie, who's working behind the counter, and you can see a large Art Deco clock on the stainless steel wall behind Eddie. Zippy says, "Time is ticking by, Eddie. Tick, tick, tick. We have 2,652,000,000 seconds to live." Eddie replies, "Pal, you gotta learn to live in the now. It's all one big second." "I don't think that fits in with the string theory of the universe, Eddie." "No, but it does fit in with the grilled cheese theory of space and time." With Zippy, you can always get a side of philosophical banter along with your eggs and bacon. As many of you know, I also have a reputation for spending inordinate amounts of time in diners and cafes, appreciative of the ambiance and large amounts of coffee, especially if there are free refills. So I was looking through a few of my old journals from the 1990s, and I came across this short entry. This was originally scribbled on the back of a restaurant napkin, and I transferred it to the notebook. It says, "Two comments of great practical insight shared with a friend at a local truck stop over a plate of fried eggs." They would have been sunny side up, though the note didn't say so. So here are the two comments on the napkin, and they are our two-point outline for today's talk, the Diner Sermon. They are not necessarily related to each other, but perhaps they are. Number one, everyone is brainwashed. And two, there is no one to blame. What we are talking about with point one is that we are all unknowingly conditioned by the world we live in. From day one, we are exposed to the norms and expectations of whatever culture we are immersed in. As part of our normal developmental process, we acquire the traits and values of that particular society and community. There are both advantages and disadvantages or limitations to this experience. But this is how we frame our world and make sense of it. Sometimes this is referred to as enculturation, where our conditioning becomes one and the same thing as our life experience. At some point, you have to step back and take an objective look, as objective as possible, and look at everything you have been told and taught. School, home, church, government, civic organizations, or political parties. Take a close look at it all and see if it really does make sense. When cultural conditioning is intact, we don't question anything, and conformity to the accepted norm is the norm. But once you start questioning the norm, that's when things start to get interesting. One by one, step by step, the layers of conditioning are investigated and explored, and that which was previously unknown is made known. Question everything. Don't make assumptions, even about your own thinking. Reassess everything and then reassess it again. Is what you are doing and what you are thinking making sense? Does it work? Or is there cognizant dissonance, incongruencies, inconsistencies, incompatibilities? Bette Midler once said, "I never know how much of what I say is true." And what is true? What is in line with what you see going on around you? What makes sense? And you can start with what is not making sense. That is where the initial rethink occurs. Again, on my filing cabinet downstairs in my office, I have these magnets stuck to it. And this is a quote by the Buddha. And you can see it's in a circular writ. So I have to spin it to read the quote. "Believe nothing, no matter where you read it or who has said it, not even if I have said it, unless it agrees with your own reason and your own common sense." Greg Eisenberg from Letting Go Is All We Have to Hang On To says, "Take my advice and think for yourself." The New England Transcendentalists emphasize that the individual needs to maintain a distanced, critical mind when it comes to evaluating our role in society. From his famous essay, Self-Reliance, Ralph Waldo Emerson writes, "It is easy to live after the world's opinion. In solitude, we live after our own. Great is the person who in the midst of the crowd keeps their independence of thought." And moving on to point number 2, there is no one to blame. If you want to make a list of reasons for why something didn't work out, you can do that. And you can probably come up with a lengthy and convincing list. But in the end, all it really looks like is just an excuse for why something didn't work out. Placing blame on someone else, or something else, or even yourself is not really going to help. So many of life's circumstances and the timing of those circumstances are so beyond our control that trying to assess blame is basically useless and irrelevant. And to be blunt, no one really wants to hear the excuses. The best of our literary works, film, and art depicts human accomplishment and heroism in spite of the odds stacked against them. No one wants to hear the excuses. Life is not fair, and it's unfair that life is not fair. Yet, we still move forward, doing what we must, doing what we can, and doing it the best we can. Here's a story by Sylvia Boorstein from her book, It's Easier Than You Think. Sylvia is the co-founder of Spirit Rock Meditation Center in California and a senior teacher at Insight Meditation Center in Barre, Massachusetts. She's also a practicing psychotherapist and known to her students and colleagues as their Jewish grandmother Bodhisattva. This story is titled The Sewing Machine Man. I needed my sewing machine fixed, and since I had moved to a new town, I found the local dealer in the Yellow Pages. This is back when people still used the phone book. As I drove up, I noticed a sign in the shop window, Business is fine. People are terrific. Life is wonderful. This is an unusual sign for a sewing machine shop. It's an unusual sign for any store. Inside, I found that the walls and countertops were decorated with similar upbeat slogans, the kind I usually see in keychain catalogs. When life hands you lemons, make lemonade. This day is what you received. What you make of it is up to you. And so on. The proprietor of the store acknowledged my presence, but stayed totally attentive to his customer. He wasn't rushing, so neither was I. When it was my turn, he was completely helpful. When we had finished my sewing machine business, I ventured a personal psychologist remark. "You seem like a very good mood person," I said. "Was your mother a cheerful person?" "No," he responded. "My mother was an alcoholic and quite depressed most of the time." "I suppose," I continued, "that your father was a good role model for you." "No, my father was an angry man and he beat us up a lot." "It's a wonder," I exclaimed, "that you turned out so well." "Actually, I didn't turn out well at all. I was a mess." He smiled ruefully. "I did terrible in school. I never really learned to read. I only got through school because I got bigger and bigger, so they just moved me along." He didn't seem to mind telling his story, and I continued to ask questions. His situation defied all conventional wisdom. After high school, things got worse. I did drugs. I got into trouble. Finally, I didn't know what to do, so I joined the Marine Corps. The first day, they gave us uniforms, and they gave us all haircuts. 6 of us got haircuts at the same time. They faced us all toward the back wall, and they clipped everyone's hair. Then they turned all 6 of us around at the same time to face the mirror. When I looked, I was disoriented and scared for a minute. I couldn't find myself. There was no one there whose story I knew. For me, that was the most important line of his narrative. There was no one there whose story I knew. He went on to explain how, having seen that it's all a matter of what story you own, he decided to have a new story. The old one, he figured, wasn't serving him well. He finished the Marines, learned machines well enough to get trained in sewing machines as a civilian, married, raised a family, and ran a small, successful business. He laughingly told me he still hadn't read more than one whole book in his life. People seem to flock to his store, though. Partly, I guess, is because he's good at fixing sewing machines. However, I think it's mostly because they just like being around his vibes. But I do think people know he knows more than he lets on. And that is something special indeed. During COVID quarantine, I, like many, have been viewing a lot of Netflix. Right now I'm watching The Last Dance, a 10-part documentary on the last NBA championship run of Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls in 1998. In episode 7, Michael has just lost his father, James Jordan, due to tragic circumstances. And Michael recalls a bit of advice that his father gave him early in his career when things weren't going well. Always take a negative and make it into a positive. No excuses, no blame. There is no one to blame. So in moving ahead with your life, make what you can of it on this day. This is a day like none other, and that too will be the same of tomorrow. Let us revel in the amazing life that this is. All my best to you. May peace and love be your companion all the days of this week. May our spirits be renewed and our resolve strengthened as we meet the challenges of the days ahead. We extinguish our chalice only until we gather again to reignite the flame that burns within and among us in all that we do as fellow travelers in this world of warmth, spring breezes, and beauty. I want to thank you all for joining us for today's UU Houlton Sunday service. Like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Practice kindness, keep your attitude positive, and look out for those having a difficult time. Again, I want to thank Brad and Corey for providing music for us today. And I want to thank Fenn, our cameraman, for keeping us on track and handling the technical end of things in today's service. We'll see you next time right here. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
That's a wrap.